So, section 3, communication. As we've seen, for the most part, you'll be communicate with things through the point of sale system, and we'll be able to know what was delivered according to your invoices. But anytime we can't see what's going on based on the invoices or based on what's coming out of the sales report, it's important that you communicate that to us. And so let's talk about the communication in a little bit more detail. So as mentioned, the point of sale system is the default way to communicate. What do I mean by that? Well, every time you sell something, if it's rung into the point of sale in a correct manner that identifies the product rung, that's the end of the story. We're going to run that sales report for the period when we do your inventory, and if those sales are all correctly recorded, there's no need for us to have any communication. So the easiest way is to have a correctly set up point of sale system and use it for every time any product is used. We ring it correctly into the point of sale system, meaning there's actually no need to do any additional communication. That being said, bars are complicated places, a lot of moving parts, and so there will always be some things that need to be communicated. And for that, we require you to put a worksheet. We can actually print these out for you. We've got specific BarI communication worksheets, or if you already have some sort of booklet or bar log, we need you to keep it behind the bar, communicate to all staff members where it is, and critically, it needs to be used frequently. If we find your bar log has 1 or 2 notes per week, we can be pretty sure that we are missing pieces of communication that would have been useful to us. As a rule of thumb, there probably should be a couple of things noted on there per day, and if there's not, either you're so clever because you've got your point of sale set up right, but more frequently the reason is because people are doing things that require communication, but they're forgetting to write them down. Another example of or the types of things that we would need communication on is if you bring in any product and it's not noted in your invoices, or you remove any product from inventory. I talked about those. Owner perhaps stole a case of wine. Anything that's added or removed should be noted on the invoices or in the communication worksheet / bar log. So that's very important. If you have anything that comes in without an invoice or it's removed without being sold through the point of sale, we need to have a note on it, please. Another piece of the puzzle, we talked about recipes, but it's important that those recipes, you have decided exactly what the recipes and portions are for all of your drinks and point of sale buttons. It's important that you communicate those with staff, presumably by having recipe cheat sheets and some sort of training mechanism for your new staff members. And then you can provide those cheat sheets to us, meaning that we'll have your recipes correctly figured out into the system. Another important point is that when you have notes or you need to communicate with us, don't please be in the habit of trying to remember all these little notes and saying, oh yeah, I'll need to tell that when they come in on Monday. It's much, much better if you can write them down at the time they happen, and the reason is simply that you will forget. The other thing about writing them down at the time is everybody can share in the responsibility to write down adjustments. If a bartender tries to say to you, oh, hey, I rang and this is that, just say, hey, go to the communication log, put a note in, and clearly write what it is you're doing, rather than you having to try and remember 15 different things you've been verbaled by your different bartenders in the middle of all the shifts throughout the week. And as mentioned, it's important that we have your collaboration on one element of communication, which is signing off on your recipes. So some boring details here. When we have the information we need, we can provide the best service for our clients. We'll save your managers or you time, and ultimately we'll do a better job of improving your profits. If we have missing information, the trouble is that we have to go and investigate what's going on before we can come to you, because there's a good chance or there's a possibility we might have made an error. And so it's much, much better for us if we have information provided us in advance up front, and it saves us a lot of time, both with ours investigating this and with yours when we come and pester you and try and figure out what the heck's going on with those specific items. Most crucially, as I said, this is a recurring challenge for us, but most critically, all the invoices need to be available in a single place in advance of counting. That means when we turn up at potentially 6 a.m. in the morning, we need to have everything there so that it's not, oh, I'll get to that, and sorry, some of those are hidden in that folder, and we need to have it there ready to go so we can do our thing independently. Anything that is not coming into the bar via an invoice and leaving via a sales report or being rung into the point of sale system, any of those types of events are going to affect your accountability, because it means that you've either received or used product and we don't know about it. They need to be communicated by ideally marking on the invoices or second best option is to set write on that communication worksheet / bar log. And then getting really specific now, let me just give you a couple of common examples of the types of things that would be awesome if they were communicated, and sometimes if these are not, but try and keep in mind these so that when they occur at your bar, you can note them at the time on the invoice or on the log. So first one is if product delivered doesn't match the invoice, hopefully you got product for free. Much more typically, it's going to be charged for something you didn't receive. It's important to mark, not on truck, broken on truck, whatever it was. If product comes without an invoice, technically this is not allowed. The reality is it does happen in many examples, particular if a rep brings in a free sample for you, or maybe you do a tasting and you get half a bottle or a few leftover servings of product. Again, a note on that is always appreciated. This is a key one that has ruined a few cycles for us. If you use product for a private party and you don't ring into the point of sale system, it's important you have a log of what was used during the private party. In actual fact, we'll get into this later, but the easiest way is to ring it up and then comp the tab. Failing that, as said, keep a note of what was used during the private party. And ideally, we'd like exact amounts. If not, at least knowing the products affected would help us. So if product is either returned from another bar or lent to another bar, it's not technically allowed, but it's often the case that bars locally will help each other out, trade product occasionally. If you are doing it in the habit of lending product out or borrowing it back, either way, that's product leaving and entering your establishment. We please would like a note of it on the log. And obviously the obvious point there is if you lent it out, if you don't keep a note of it, how do you make sure that you got it back again? So this is sort of research and development. We jokingly say, sometimes people will take product home to test it. Again, we're absolutely fine with that. It's important you know the product you're serving. But if you remove things and you're not bringing it to the point of sale, once again, we need to please have it written down. Maybe you let your staff purchase beer, or sometimes there's occasions it gets taken home by staff. Again, if it's not running to the point of sale, it's really important for it to be written down for us. If product is returned, sometimes you get a bad keg. Sometimes you simply realize that you got more than you wanted. But anytime you send product back, sometimes you'll get a return credit notice. That's fine. If not, we need to have a note on it. Product subs. If you run out of Jim Beam on a busy Friday night and so you pour Jack Daniels instead, we're obviously going to show one product up and one product down. So it's important, please, that you tell us about those product subs. And as said, as a matter of rule of thumb, if you do it more than 10 servings in a cycle, it'd be useful to have that information. Also, when you create a new button, we need to have a communication if it's not obvious. So, when you make a new Jack Daniels Rocks button, we'll know that your Jack Daniels Rocks is a 2-ounce pour, and that's fine. But if you create a new button called Top Shelf Marg, obviously we'll need to know what tequila you're using, how much, and then possibly if you're using, triple sec or some type of liqueur as well. And then the most, common one is anytime you use open liquor, open beer, open wine, we're going to presume it's a single serving. So if you do open liquor button, we'll presume it's 1.5 ounces in most cases of liquor being used. So if it was a whole bottle, or if it was a whole sale for an event, perhaps it's $1,000 that you pre-sold a prepaid party per head, we need to have a note so that we know, that $800 charge was that private party, and we know it's being correctly accounted for.